going to use my customer order entry screen just as an example to show how we can personalize and navigate through the system. Much of what I show here can be used throughout the system. I'm just using this form as an example. So some of the things that we can do with this is we have columns in our customer order form as an example, and I have the ability to move these columns around, change the sizes of them. The other thing I can do is actually go in and configure those lines and either include or uncheck them to exclude them from the list. I have the ability also to change what that column might say. So for example, not that I would do this, but maybe my quantity field, I would want to say QTY ordered, just as an example. So I can rename the label on that. So my quantity field is now quantity ordered, as you see here. Now I got to stretch it open a little bit more to see that whole thing and then save that configuration with anything that I've moved or changed. So the other thing that I can do is with the search functionality is anytime I have a magnifying glass next to a field, that means I can search all of the data within that field. If I click on that as an example, you can see these are all of my customer orders. I can begin filtering through that either using my quick filter, which means I can just open up a line here and start typing. Maybe I want everything that starts with a B, for example. Or use my wildcards and I know it has an IG in it and it finds that same record. Maybe it's BL in there, and there's my Abelman. So the ability to use wildcards and quickly filter and find what you're looking for, or on certain fields they're drop downs, so I can choose from the drop down list to show all my released orders. And then of course once I have that, I can just double click on any of these to load it into my form, and it keeps this record in the background for me, so it gives me the ability to scroll through that search set without coming back to the search screen in my form. Same thing here, I can modify this form to add fields and change these column names if I wanted to. What I like to do in forms like this is having the ability to edit these columns and add columns to it. For example, I'm looking here at a customer ID, but maybe I don't know what that ID is, or maybe I'm using a numerical ID that really isn't a smart ID, and I really need to know what the customer's name is. So I would just come to my list here because it shows me all the fields related to the customer order and allows me to enter that here. So I'm going to come and find my customer name from the list and add that to it. There's my name, so I'm just going to check that to add it, and I'm going to leave the name. I could say, maybe I want to call it the customer name, and hit my check, and now I have that on my list, and I can make my box bigger and stretch that field out so that I can see the full name here. The nice thing about this is it becomes an ad hoc utility because I can now create a filter. Well, I already have it filtered on released orders, so maybe that's a report. Show me all of my released orders. And maybe a better example, I would add maybe an order date or due date or something on there. But just as an example, I just filter on what I am looking for, add the fields that I want to see, and then I can export that out to Excel, and it will give me that in a spreadsheet, and that's an ad hoc report. The nice thing about that, though, is if I do that often and search on this and I want to keep that, I can create a profile. So I can create a profile, maybe I'll call it released orders. And if I wanted to, make that one the default, whenever I opened it up, I can choose that box. But saving those profiles allows me then to come in and open up any number of profiles that I may have created. That's the only one I did here, but I can have an infinite number of profiles sorted and with different filters on them that gives me different data with different names, and pull those up and shoot them out to Excel. So it's a quick way that anybody without IT support can create ad hoc reports to send out to Excel. The other ability I have is to create what we call user definable tabs. So the system comes with certain tabs, but we always know that some customers may have a need for other information that might not come with it. So we have the ability to add our own tabs to this. For instance, I added this compliance tab and I created a list format in here that allows me to choose a piece of data from the list. Throughout the system, we have these drill buttons. So anytime you see a record that has an arrow in the field, you simply click on that arrow and it will take you to the source record behind that. In this case, it was part ID A8000, so it brings me to the part maintenance for that particular item. And now I have the ability to change the way I like to look at some forms. For example, in part maintenance, I have these view panels which show me more information about it. This one's showing me some inventory information, and I can either hide that if I don't care to see that if I wanted to, or I can change it. Maybe I like to look at it in a graph view versus just that detail, or maybe I like grid mode. So depending on how you like to see that data, you can change that view. Another thing that we have the ability to do is we showed the graphical menu in the beginning, but we also have a personal menu. And our personal menu could be used anywhere in the system, and I can force it to stay on top so it's always there. I would have this, first of all, it would be set by security, so you would only be able to get to menu items that you had the security rights to get to. I'm an administrator, so I have all of it, but I could still even modify this and remove or add things that may or may not come out of the box with it. So it's a great way to navigate through the system.